If I can find it.
Recording.
Thank you. As a preliminary matter, this is Brian Sullivan, the Chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Chantal Murphy.
Yeah.
Rima Sherry,
Here.
Tom Dixon,
Here.
and obviously we can hear me. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Ellis. Actually, couldn't hear you.
Here.
There we go. Now I got it. Tucker Holland,
Here.
Vicky Marsh.
Here.
Great. Anticipated speakers on the agenda when I. Please respond in the affirmative. Judy Barrett.
Here.
Great, thank you, Judy. Meg, I see you came in. Can we test your mic?
Hello.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This open meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust, is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust is convening via video conference via the Zoom app as posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join. Please note the meeting is being recorded and all attendees are participating by a video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials have been provided. Members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless we note otherwise. We'll turn to the first item on the agenda, but before we do so, permit me to cover ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I'll introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, we'll go down a line of members, inviting each to provide name, comment, questions, or motions. Hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or your computer when you're not speaking. Remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to the members of the public who have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote will be taken by roll call. Okay, I don't see any new members having joined. I think we know that we won't see Penny today. I'm not sure of the other members' schedule. With that, I'll move over to the agenda and call the meeting to order. 12:33. Look for an approval of the agenda unless anybody wants to make any adjustments.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
And a second from Chantal by roll call. Chantal Murphy,
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Aye.
Brian Sullivan is an aye. With that, we'll move to an approval of minutes. Ellis, if you can come in on your microphone on this, and as we work our way through the group, Ellis has identified who was at which meeting and who is able to vote. So we'll run through these individually. I'll first come to Rima for comments.
Yeah, I think that the April 25th minutes needs a little more work, so I'd like to set those aside if we could.
Great. Yes, Ellis?
There is one person that just joined and it only says Zoom user, if they could identify themselves.
Ellis, it's Billy Cassidy.
Bailey Cassidy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Meg, you have a question on the minutes?
A comment, yeah, on for what it's worth, when you go back to the 425 notes, I think we should just list Megan Perry's name spelled correctly.
I
And
fixed that.
then for 725, I noticed that we listed Brooke as a member. I don't know if that's accurate or not. If she should be listed as a public, I don't know, you tell me. And then also on
You
725.
mean, I'm sorry, you're confusing me on the dates. You mean 7-5?
The ones that she just sent out individually.
Okay,
7:25.
got it.
We listed.
We don't have those on today's list. We'll take those up at a future.
Okay,
Today-
great.
Today's list ends at July 5th.
Got you.
So if you would send your comments to Ellis on those, that would be great.
Sure.
So Rima's proposing to hold over April 25th. Ellis, do you want to work us through the dates, March 28th, who was not in attendance?
So, March, I don't have March 28th. It was not recorded.
Okay,
So, Tucker is going to work on that for me.
so should we hold March 28th as well?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one we'll vote on is April 4.
Mhm. So on April 4th, Rima, Megan, Brian Sullivan, Brooke, and Shanta was present.
Great. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the minutes from April 4th?
So moved.
In a second? Great. So by roll call, Shanta Murphy,
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. Tom, will have you abstain since you weren't at the meeting. April 7th. Ellis on attendance.
On April 7th, we had Rima, we had Dave Iverson, Meg Browers, Brooke Moore, and Brian Sullivan.
Okay, so we have Rima, Meg, myself. Can we make a vote with 3? Vicky, that's a question for you.
Wasn't Dave there?
He was, but he's not on this meeting to vote.
Oh,
So how many people do you have here?
I have 3 of the people that were in attendance at that meeting.
Out of 5?
Correct.
Okay,
Seven.
yes.
So I have 3 out of 5 in attendance that were at that meeting, so we
Yes.
can vote. Okay. So on April 7th, I'll look for approval of those minutes
So moved.
in a second. Meg, I think I saw your mouth say second.
second.
Okay. By roll call, Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Aye.
Brian Sullivan's an aye, and we have Shanta and Tom Dixon abstaining, not in attendance at the meeting. April 25th, we're holding over as recommended by Rima Sherry. May 3rd, Ellis,
On May 3rd, we had Dave Iverson, Brooke Moore, Penny Dye, Meg Browers, and Brian Sullivan.
okay, so we have 2 of 5, Vicky, so I'm assuming I'm holding this over for a future vote. That takes me to May 25th.
May 25th. May 25th, everybody was present besides Dave Iverson.
Great. So look for a motion to approve the minutes as written for May 25th.
Hold on one.
Go ahead, Tucker.
I think we should hold this one because it's in the approval of the agenda. It says seconded by Dave Iverson, but if he wasn't present, that isn't possible. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll hold May 25th until we have Dave Iverson. Ellis, when we have agenda items to approve in the future, would you list next to the date who was in attendance on the line? So then it's just easy to zip through.
Okay.
And
Will do.
who motioned and who seconded it? With that, I'll jump to May 30th.
On May 30th, we had Rima Sherry, Brooke Moore, Shanta, and Dave.
Okay, and I wasn't there,
He wasn't there.
so we don't have enough for that one either today. We have Shanta and just Rima. And June 13th,
June 13th, everybody was present.
all right, now we're cooking. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as written on June 13th?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, vote by roll call, Chantal Murphy,
Aye.
Rima Sherry.
Aye.
Tom was here at that point, right? Tom, was your date effective then, June 13th?
No.
Not yet? Okay. Meg Bowers
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's and I. Moving to June 20th.
June 20th, we had Rima Sherry, Penny Dye, Meg Browers, Brian Sullivan, Brooke Moore, and Chantal.
Great. So approval of the minutes for June 20th as written. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Rima, a second from
Second.
Chantal. Thank you. Vote by roll call. Chantal Murphy.
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Aye.
Brian Sullivan's and I. And lastly, July 5th.
On July 5th, why don't I have July 5th?
Oh, hi,
Oh,
Penny.
yes, I know. From July 5th, I got the minutes from Erica Mooning. This was a meeting that had happened at the select board meeting. So actually, I don't know who was there or not.
Okay, and so I don't know that we need to, I don't. Rima, you opened and closed that meeting, right?
Yeah, and I think that it was listed. It was you and, well, were you there, Brian, online? I know Sean came in online. And Dave and Penny were there in person with me.
I was
So,
online.
and Meg was online. So I guess, yeah, that sounds like pretty much every, Ellis has something to say.
Great, Ellis.
The minutes for 7/5 has already been approved and posted because it was included in the select board minutes.
Oh,
I
okay.
Great.
didn't know how to proceed with that, so I just excluded our section and put it on another form. But it was already approved and posted.
Okay, so I think we'll just leave it alone because we're not approving any of their minutes, but if we're included in theirs, we'll take that as okay, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you- Okay, so with that, we do have Penny just joined the meeting. Were there any that I was short on a vote that Penny qualifies for the third, just so we can take it off the?
Yes, for the third, for May 3rd. We were short, so if Penny could vote on that one.
And who was in attendance? Penny, myself.
Dave, Brooke, and Meg.
Okay, so it'll be Penny, Meg, and I to vote. Yes, Penny.
Yeah, I will approve it, but with this, with all of the changes that I had sent in previously.
I made all the changes.
That's great. Thank you, Alice. Okay. So
So
do I vote by
so
myself?
No, so Penny, we've gone through all of them that we have enough in attendance, more than three to vote, and the only one that we weren't able to that now you're here is May 3rd. The others that we're able to approve have been approved, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the
So
minutes
moved.
from May 3rd and a second. Meg,
Second.
okay, vote by roll. Penny Dye,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Aye.
Brian Sullivan's and I, and we have Tom, Rima, and Shanta abstaining from that vote. Okay, with that, we're through the minutes. Thank you. Item number 4, public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to make comment today? Are there any members of the board or presenters that would like to make comment as members of the public? Tucker Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to inform the board that the developer at the Sparks Avenue location, which we've talked about before, they have a plan before the planning board with regard to developing 32 units of rental housing in addition to some commercial. And as the board knows, there's been an ongoing conversation between the developer and our office with respect to the possibility of buying down a certain number of units, at least 25% at the 80% AMI level, so that all units would count towards a subsidized housing inventory, and all units would be year-round in terms of their rental. So the developer has reached out again to ask that a letter be sent as he is going before the planning board next week, indicating that we have a continued interest in seeing that come to fruition, what I just described. However, it's still pending the details of it. So we're not negotiating a particular number. We're not talking about a particular number, but he has asked that we basically reaffirm the interest in working together to get to that outcome. And so I am planning to send a note in that regard, consistent with our prior discussions.
Thank you, Tucker. Ann Kuspa?
Hello, Ann Kuspa, Housing Nantucket, thank you. I was following up on the definition of attainable housing that was changed at town meeting. And my understanding was that the select board would need to amend your charter, I believe, your declaration of trust. So I just wanted to see where that was in your process.
Thank you, Ann, for the question. I do not have an answer, so I will defer to anyone in the group that does. And I'm not seeing anybody jump on this fire. So Vicky, yes, thank you.
I do not have an answer. However, if it has not been changed as of now, then I will have to look into it and see what we can do about getting it revised. Okay.
Thank you.
Great. So
I will take
Vicky, I
it.
know you have a very long to-do list, but if you could put this, if you could add this to it, we would appreciate that. Or maybe Tucker, do we have a way in for you or Ellis to check to see if the language has been changed and then come back to Vicky, so then she knows whether to take action or not?
We will coordinate with Vicky.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Come to item 5, follow up on a conversation with George Ruther. I see here on we have the link provided to, this is the video from the library's session. And then our session can be found on the town's YouTube channel. I found the conversation very productive, so I'm appreciative of George's attendance, and it was fun to see all the light bulbs popping as he spoke amongst people. So
Yeah, I just wanted to point to that link, as you did, Mr. Chair, for folks who weren't able to attend the session. It was extremely informative, and I just want to reflect in the record our deep appreciation to George and his wife for taking the time to journey over here while they were on the East Coast and sharing George's experience in Vail. It's very instructive, and I think it comes at a very helpful time.
Penny?
Yeah, just for the record, I know there was some extensive dialogue and misinformation flying around about who was paying for this. Had the trust been paying for this, I think that would have been an extraordinarily sensible use of funds, given what resulted from that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. I agree with you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close item 5, item 6. I will turn to Tucker. We've received new data from the 2020 census on our updated SHI information. So if you could share with us, with the community and the board. You're on mute.
And there we go. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, last week, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities disseminated the new SHI or subsidized housing inventory requirements for communities across the Commonwealth. And folks will recall that following the 2010 census, our year-round housing unit count had been deemed to be 4,896 year-round housing units by, at the time, DHCD. And now that number has gone up roughly 26% to 6,184 units. Therefore, our 10% requirement of that is 618 units. As the board is aware, we're presently at 332 units. So this kind of pushes our progress back in a certain degree on a percentage basis from the 6.7% we had been at to now a little over 5% or halfway there. So this is our new number for the next 10 years. We're confirming with EOHLC that in order to get 1 year of safe harbor, we would have to create 31 units or 0.5%. And in order to get 2 years of safe harbor, we would need to create 62 units or 1%. So we've reached out to folks there to confirm our understanding. And as well, I do not believe or expect this affects our current period of safe harbor, which runs until December 11th of 2024. But this will set a new bar going forward.
Penny, question?
Thank you. Just through you, Mr. Chair, to Tucker, how much do you think, and I know you can't quantify this, but let me rephrase it. Do you think the impact of the pandemic and the number of people that were occupying homes year round during that 2 to 3 year period had something to do with this 26% increase?
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you think about, as you pointed out, Penny, that we were right in the heart of the the beginning of the pandemic when the 2020 census began. Because of the pandemic, the census, which normally takes place during the first part of the year, was extended until October. And if you think about where people were, residing during that roughly 6-month period, I think it was a bit of a perfect storm. We didn't create that many more new year-round housing units net during that period.
Thank you, which has nothing to do with, of course, the need for year-round housing. It's just an interesting metric, I think. Thank you.
Tucker, did the census report show the number of total housing units? Was that increase at the same percentage or at a smaller percentage? Did our seasonal go up or down to the same numbers?
It's a good question, Mr. Chair. I don't have the number right in front of me. I have to get back to you to answer that. I'm not sure whether it was proportional exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
I would
you.
expect that it would be less relatively because of what we just talked about.
Right. Any other members of the board for questions on that? Mr. Cassidy?
Hi, Mr. Chair. I'm not advocating one way or the other, but I wonder if there's an appellate process for that number.
I'm sorry, a what process?
An appellate process. Can
Oh.
we ask to have that confirmed or justified or something?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, the
Um,
statute for 40B ties the percentage to the most recent decennial census.
So without redoing the census, I don't know that there's a way to appeal it necessarily. Is that a correct statement, Judy?
That is correct. And I think the other thing that might be helpful is that for this census and every census, people are asked when they are in a residence, is this your usual place of residence? So if people were in a seasonal home for some extended period, but they were asked the question, is this your usual residence? Presumably they said no. I can't account for the change in the SHI. I'm just telling you that the mere fact that someone was in a residence on April or in October doesn't mean that they were reported as being a resident there on a year-round basis.
Got it. Tucker, did you have okay, go ahead.
Yeah, just related to Mr. Cassidy's question. I don't know about appealing the determination of our year-round number, but what is very much in active discussion is a possible seasonal communities designation. And we have had some preliminary discussion with the new Secretary of Housing. We're going to be having a follow-up meeting with him. I think people are speaking to the governor about this. She's considering perhaps some executive orders in this sort of regard. But that wouldn't change the 10% requirement, but it might give some latitude with respect to what units actually count on the SHI list, what is an appropriate percentage of year-round housing in a 40B project in a seasonal community. Those are the sorts of things that might be on the table.
Thank you, Tucker. Any other questions or comments on the SHI update? Seeing none, we'll close item 6 and jump to item 7. I know we have a shortened time window. Judy, I will open to you for efficiency.
Sure, no problem. So Tucker circulated a spreadsheet that has 2 schedules in it. And Tucker, I apologize. I actually intended for the one I sent you to simply be if you decide not to go with a working group, you drop out 2 steps, but it's fine. You have 2 options laid out in that worksheet. An option A, which is the assumption that you're going to have a working group to work with you on developing the year-round restriction. And the second sheet in that workbook is the Housing Trust is taking the lead, and the engagement is mainly going to be through focus group and et cetera participation. And the only really substantive difference, I think, between the 2 as I read them is whether there's going to be a working group. Because the delivery of things like a community engagement plan and so forth, those dates are all pretty much the same. So I think you have to decide what you want to do as a group. And either way, I think you're going to be fine in terms of being able to get input from the community. It's just a question of how you go about doing that. But certainly, I just want to point out that in the first option, which is the working group one, there's still built into that 2 rounds of focus groups. So that's not really any different. I think there's a question of do you want to sort of have your arms wrapped around this as a trust, or do you want to bring some additional people in on a working group basis?
Okay, thank you, Judy. So with that, we'll open the question kind of up to the floor. Penny?
Yeah, I'm a little confused. We kept talking about the neighborhood first model, that committee. Is that A or B? This has gotten kind of complicated.
So B would be the A would be the neighborhood first version. B would be trust run with focus group participation.
Okay, thank you. I also wanted to say that as a former member of the Neighborhood First group, it was crucial to have strong and driven leadership to keep us on schedule. This is a very aggressive schedule.
It is. That's right.
I favor the Neighborhood First model. I think it's as inclusive as can be and more efficient. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. I'd like to hear from others. Mr. Dixon?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Penny. I think if it wasn't for the tight time frame, I would lean the other way. But because of the schedule to get whatever the legislation done and to fit our window, I think that exactly what Penny said, the kind of tight leadership on making it all happen in a tight time frame is the most important thing.
And so you're both in a option A category.
Yes.
Thank you. Other thoughts? Meg?
Through you to Judy, could you just clarify for me? I know you just explained this, but A or B, one of them includes only trust members, and then we're going to use focus groups, and one of them includes trust members and 7 community members. Is that still the route we're going?
I think that was the intent. So the option A is the housing trust. There's a working group that you guys create. And,
Within the trust.
well, you would be including people from outside the trust.
Okay.
And then you have a focus group schedule, community input, whatever. And then the second one is the housing trust taking the lead in getting this done. And with a lot of outreach through focus groups and so forth. So that's the main difference is, do you have more people involved in kind of the driving the bus, if you will, than the housing trust? And it's up to you guys. I mean, I think either model can work, but that's me.
And so Tom and Penny, you're voicing support due to the short window of time that we have for B?
No, for A.
Hey,
So public community participation.
They're supporting A, which is a group, not this one, but with participation from this one to develop the program. Option B is this group with public participation is the second option.
Mr. Chair, the only thing I would add is unless Tucker and or Judy, she just said she thinks either could work, but unless Tucker staff thinks that one or the other is the better option, that would be my only.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Rima?
Yeah, just given the information that we heard from George Ruther and the enthusiasm within the trust that seemed to be apparent, are we going to consider, changing our goals in this? I mean, obviously we need a definition for year round. That would be, the first thing. And then what we're going to do with it, so I was wondering what our original goals were before we heard George, and if that is going to affect, how we'd like to work through this. So through you to Judy, I think, and Tucker.
I think
Okay.
for the Tucker, I don't know how to answer that.
Well, Tucker's got his hand up, so I'll bring the question to him and then to make whatever his point statement was.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say right now, I'm extremely concerned about option A and trying to seat a committee and get this work done by December. I think it would be a colossal failure of this group if we do not have a warrant article on town meeting warrant next spring. I think I'm totally on board with whatever route folks want to go, but really we're each taking responsibility then for making it happen. To go out and recruit what we think is going to be a representative group of 9 people of the entire island, and get them seated by the first week of September, according to Judy's schedule, I think is a very, 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 very tall order. I personally am much more in favor of the trust being the lead. This is what the trust does. This is the trust's work. And we can be very intentional about inviting voices from every corner of the community to participate in a very fulsome way through the focus group process as outlined in option B. And kind of the beauty of that is we're not just hearing from, one voice representing a certain constituency, but we're hearing several. Not, there's no one person who speaks perfectly for any constituency of any kind. And so to have more voices involved, I think is very beneficial. I think that I've had a chance to talk to Kamal McCarthy, the town's director of DEI, and Kamal thought as well that both approaches could work, but given the time frame and what we're trying to accomplish, he leaned toward the multiple voices approach. Not that there wouldn't be multiple voices in the first version, but in thinking about the people that we would like to get involved, it's asking a lot for someone to commit to 6 to 8 2 or 3 hour sessions over the course of the next 3 months. So I'm happy to go either direction, but I think I'd be completely remiss if I didn't say something. Looking at that schedule, there is no room for error if under the committee schedule. And if we embrace going that way, I hope we can get the kind of representation that we want. But if we don't, I fear we could get off the tracks really early in this process.
Thank you, Tucker. Penny, I have one question before I call you, and I don't know if it's for Vicky or for Judy, but what effectively do we assume we're bringing to the floor of town meeting for a vote? Are we working on definitions into the existing code, or are we creating something new and different in a whole piece of legislation? That's my question for either Vicky or Judy.
I am going to defer to your counsel.
Thank you.
I was going to defer to you, Judy.
I mean, I think it's a whole new thing, but I do totally defer to you.
So a couple of things occur to me, and I had this conversation, I'm not sure whether it was I think it was with Tucker at one point, and I said, what are we trying to accomplish with the year-round restriction, year-round restriction? And his comment to me was that, as I recall, was that he wanted it so that it would be used to be able to have the trust fund a buy down program or some kind of program, some kind of funding for a program that would purchase or buy down year-round restrictions. Okay. So if that's what we're trying to do, then we need to have some kind of program created to go to town meeting with that will be what we want them to vote on to authorize the trust, or I assume the trust, to use funds to be able to buy down or purchase these restrictions. And so therefore you also need the definition as well, to go with it. And I sort of look at it as some of the other like covenant programs that have been created. And that's what I think you want to do. But maybe I'm wrong and I stand to be corrected if so.
I think that's an accurate description. I just wanted to make sure that it's clear to me what I understand we're presenting to the community to vote on at the meeting, whether, you know, it, unlike a down payment assistance program, excuse me, a closing cost assistance program, which didn't need to go to town meeting for approval for funding, but this program we are taking to town meeting for its full approval. I just wanted to make sure I understood the difference in the types of programs.
So are you asking me to respond? Or?
I don't know that I'm seeking a response today, but what I'm hearing is we have a full packet to bring to the floor of town meeting.
Mhm.
And based on what I heard from George is keep it simple. With that, I'm going to come to Penny for her question and then to Meg, and I'll leave it there. Go ahead, Penny.
Just very quickly, through you to Tucker. What happened? I thought we were going down a course where we had, or a path where we had some representation from the trust and kind of a subcommittee on this thing. Are both of A and B now proposing that the entire trust is involved in this?
So A was assuming that, I mean, I can just tell you because I'm the one who
Yeah.
came up with A, that a majority of that group would be trust members. And I may not have been clear about that, and I apologize, but my assumption was that the trust wasn't giving over the reins completely because you've got a deadline you're trying to meet for your own programmatic purposes. So my assumption was that you would be bringing other people on specifically for this project.
Thank you.
And then all the other outreach is pretty much the same. The focus groups and so forth.
Mhm.
That's the main difference between the two. And I have to defer to Tucker and you guys about whether you think putting together a group over the course of 5 weeks is going to be a problem.
Well, Judy, can you just elaborate? Because I was under the impression myself that the advisory committee approach, if you will, similar to when Penny and others served on the Neighborhood First Advisory Committee, that was, I think, 2 trust members, and then really not, in that case, it was 9 other members. I think we've been talking about conceptually a 9-person committee, and I think we've been talking about it, or my understanding, I should say, of how we've been talking about it is that it might be similar, that there are a couple of trust members and then 7 outside members. But if you're seeing it differently, it'd be helpful to know.
So
Yeah.
Tucker, I apologize because I wasn't involved with Neighborhoods First.
Yep.
Oh, I keep hearing that reference and I may be misinformed, but my view was because you guys have a deadline that you are trying to meet, that you wouldn't completely give over the reins. But that for purposes of this program, you would be bringing in some additional folks, almost as in an advisory capacity for the trust. So that's how I was seeing it. And that's why I've been calling it an advisory committee. But I understand that you did it differently with Neighborhoods First, and I apologize for any confusion I may have caused. I saw it as you guys are still fundamentally in the driver's seat. You're bringing some additional people to basically help steer this, but all the other outreach, the focus groups and so forth, that's the same between these 2 programs, 2 projects. It's the same.
So are you seeing it as, just so I'm understanding, that it's like 7 trust members plus X number of other outside members,
I mean,
or?
it could be 7, or it could be just a majority of the trust members. I think
Okay.
that's a decision you guys would want to make. But I've just seen this done a couple of times, but it's still very much the trust's project. So, because I know you don't want to, I know you don't want this thing to run aground, and I don't blame you.
Well,
So-
the second part, just, I mean, so I'm actually liking a bit more how you're describing the group, because the second conversation besides Kamal that I had regarding this was with Janelle Austin from Town Council's office. And she had expressed, again, either system can work in a perfect world, but that on a tight time schedule, that that having a group that is sort of unfamiliar with protocols of public meetings and open meetings, et cetera, like that could take some time to get them up to speed. And so having a core, really leadership by the group that is familiar with these areas is beneficial also.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Meg?
Thanks. I wonder if we're complicating this in a way that perhaps with just some crafting of language, we could leave ourselves the option. If we say that for timeline purposes, we say that the Affordable Housing Trust is creating a subcommittee with an option to appoint a number of public members if we desire that. If we wanted to appoint, do we have the legal right and ability to just say that we have the option to appoint? So let's see how many people from the trust want to serve on this. And if we want to fill out the committee with hand-selected members from the island who meet certain demographics or areas of expertise, so be it. If we choose not to, great, but that's up to us. I don't know if that's an option, so I'm just putting that question out there. And then I have a couple of questions actually, so.
Let him rip.
In terms of the leadership, I'm hoping, and correct me if I'm wrong, Judy, are you going to be part of the leadership of that group? Are you going to sort of walk us through this process or no?
I'm kind of a facilitator helping to get this thing done.
Yeah, but
Separate
you're
and-
going to be through, you're going to be a part of it through to the end and like working with Tucker and whoever else is on the committee to roll this thing forward, right?
That, I think that's the intent.
Okay. And then I guess I feel like this has been asked 3 times, so apologies for any repetition, but Vicky, is what you're saying that if we want to create a deed restriction program, and let's say by December I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. I think that there's a lot of options out there for us to utilize and build off of. So looking to Vail, looking to other places who have successful programs, start there, build out the Nantucket program. Do we have to get the deed restriction program approved at town meeting? It has to be approved at town meeting, or we can do that as part of the function of Affordable Housing Trust without it being approved at town meeting. I just want to be really clear about that.
So, you do not have the authority as the trust to create this program on your own.
Okay.
Okay, so
So it has to be approved at town meeting. It can't be
Yes.
approved by the select board or anything else. It has to go through town meeting.
I believe so, yes. I will double check it and I will certainly let you know, but that is my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Okay,
I
but
think that's-
definitely you do not have the authority just to go and unilaterally create this program.
Okay. I think that that's a really important question for us to have a super clear answer on, because if it's select board, that takes a little bit of the question out of it. If it's town meeting, it's town meeting.
I will get you an answer this week, okay?
Thanks, Nikki. That'd be
You're
great.
welcome.
Brian, could I
Um,
just pose a question to Vicky as she pursues this answer? Vicky, do you have any concern about the trust's authority to purchase a restriction that doesn't have an income limit associated with it?
So I do, I think that, and I think we have to find a way to sort of work around that, okay? I do. I mean, the way, we've tried to change the limits, we've tried to modify them, so I think that is something that we need to address. I know that, in Vail, they had, and that was one of the reasons I asked the question, was they had no income limits on theirs, for different reasons probably. And the other thing is Massachusetts is different. And I feel like I'm saying that. I was just at another meeting a little while ago and I was saying the same thing. Massachusetts is different. We have different statutes that we need to comply with, different regulations. So we do, and we have a different system. So we do have to work within what we've got. We can't do exactly maybe what Vale did, but we can certainly take some of their input and try to modify it. So yes, you've raised a really valid question about what we can do. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, can I just qualify something that Vicky said in answering Meg's question? So that is the state today, Meg, you know, what Vicky described. The governor is considering taking some actions that could change the local ability to do some things. So for what we know today, take what Vicky said exactly at face value, but that might change 3 months from now.
Okay, with that, Meg, are your questions satisfied? Do you have more? Do you want me to come to Rima?
I think I'm good. I just really would like to know a little bit about like everyone's thoughts and Judy and Vicky's thoughts about. I don't see a huge difference here between A and B. You know, in my mind, the steps we're taking, we're getting a lot of community input. There's not a huge difference. The difference is whether it's just Affordable Housing Trust or whether we pull a couple members of the public in, and can we not just make that our discretion to appoint additional members as needed on the committee, and then we can move forward. So that's my other question.
Okay, so I'll open that question to Vicky. I don't know that we can bring in other members except in an advisory capacity, not in a voting capacity or a policy decision making, I would say. Is that generally accurate, Vicky?
I would think so, Brian. And I think that I think that once you establish what you want to do, you know, I think you should establish, pick a choice and then go with it. I think that when you start waffling, then people start questioning the transparency of all of this, and you know, why all of a sudden are they changing their tune? And I think that, you know, I know the decision is not always easy, but I think at some point you need to make a decision about what you want to accomplish from this, and then move forward.
Just to put a timeline on that, Judy's got another meeting at 10:30, so I'd like to come to, excuse me, at 1:30. So I'd like to come to a decision in the next 7 minutes. So everybody be prepared in 6 minutes for a decision process. Rima, then Tucker.
Okay, through you, Brian. I think that option B is going to be the most efficient. We're going to get the input from the public through the surveys and the focus groups. And it's more about, you know, our goals. If we want to keep things affordable, then we're working within our purview. So really it's taking the definition to town meeting, getting input on that, or getting input through the focus groups on what kind of deed restriction program the community most wants, you know, keeping it affordable or opening it up to all income levels and how that looks. So my opinion is option B, and we need to be clear on where we're going with this, because obviously we can't do anything beyond our charter without additional legislation and permission. That's it.
Okay, looking to come to the head of the pin here. Tucker, do you want to have any summary comments? Are there any other board members that, having learned new information about how the groups are comprised? Any final questions?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just was simply going to say, every single person, you know, on this board wants the same thing. We want excellent representation from all corners, all facets of our community to be part of this process. Unquestionable. And the question really is, how do we get there in the most efficient manner? I'm very concerned about being able to recruit those folks in a 4-week time period, and have them be able to participate at all of the junctures, we need them to participate as identified in the schedule. I think, again, this is just personally, if we're relying more on the focus group type of approach, we're going to get more feedback, richer feedback. Someone can't make a meeting. We still, we're going to have a bench that's 3 or 4 people deep from each of these facets of the community. So someone can't make a meeting doesn't mean that concerns aren't expressed. So that's my pitch. I just want us, either way is fine with me. I just want us to be eyes wide open. And if we go with the committee, every single person on this call from the trust should be thinking about and going out starting tonight on recruiting who those folks are in order to get the makeup that we're looking for.
Any final thoughts, comments, questions? Mr. Dixon, Tom?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I'm a little confused on which option is which now and which is kind of the neighborhood first. Can we just have some final clarity on, Tucker, what option do you favor based on what you just said?
I favor option B. I'm calling option A the advisory committee route. Option B is more the focus group route. Not that that focus groups couldn't be part of option A as well, but one has more emphasis on the advisory committee, one has more emphasis on the focus groups. So I favor B is personally, but I'm not trying to be in opposition to A. I just think we need to be very eyes wide open on that. There's no room for
Critical
error.
that we're on a timeline to deliver something to the Springtown meeting.
Yep.
I think that's the most critical, because all of our goals and intentions are aligned. It's what's the most critical item. It's to have a deliverable for town meeting. Any other thoughts or comments, questions? Yes, Meg?
One final thought, or two actually. Knowing that Chantal and Dave are not on the call today, I'm just would like to get like a vague sense from our Affordable Housing Trust, who would be willing to serve on this committee. I mean, I want to make sure we have representation from the committee before we go with a solely Affordable Housing Trust group. Do we have?
Yeah.
So I saw you, Brian. I don't know if that's enough.
B would be everyone serving on the committee.
It would be rolled into part of our regular meeting.
Yes, exactly.
So everyone from Affordable Housing Trust would automatically be appointed to this committee.
We would schedule, you are committing to scheduling additional meetings and attendance in those meetings. And
Cool.
at those meetings, there will be advisors from other professions and the general public who will have an opportunity to weigh in.
Okay, and my final thought is I'm really just, for the record, I want to support representation from our community. We would not have any diversity from this board unless, besides Chantal serving as a person of color. I don't know what our situation is with homeowners versus renters. And I personally can think of 3 or 4 people who would represent our community well that I'd be happy to approach to serve as a committee members for the option A, public participants, along with Affordable Housing Trust people. So again, for the record, Tucker, I totally appreciate what you're saying. I do have suggestions. I do think it's important for us to have representation from the year-round community.
I'm gonna have to sign off.
Judy, we'll be back to you. Judy, we're going to take a vote. We will deliver you a piece of information.
Whatever you do is gonna be fine.
Anything we do is going to be, yes, we have aligned
that.
goals.
Yeah.
Totally. Thank you, Judy. Okay. With all of this thought, one more comment? Is that a comment, Tom, or are you looking to make a
No.
motion?
Motion to approve option B based on staff recommendation as the better, slightly better course to proceed.
Great. Is there a second?
Second that.
Okay, there's a second from Rima. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll take a vote by roll call. Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Meg Bowers,
No,
Penny Dye,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. Okay, so we have a structure. If we can deliver that to Judy, then we can, in the words of George, put the gas on this and keep moving forward. You remember restriction value. So I'm going to close item 7. Thank you guys for a robust discussion on that. And moving to item 8, presentation or request from the warming place. Tucker, I'm not sure who's making this presentation, so I don't know who to call on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I should have mentioned actually when you approved the agenda, Deb had actually requested to come at a future meeting after making the initial request to come today. So they're gonna come back with something that's a little more robust at a future meeting.
Okay, so we'll hold this item
Yep.
for a future agenda, Ellis. I don't know that we need to repeat it until they make the request to be on. So I'll close item 7, or wait. That's 8, 9, other business. The next meeting is scheduled for August 22nd at 12:30. Does anybody have a major conflict with that as noted? Seeing none, is there any other business? Tucker?
I just want to mention, since we have the 31 Fairgrounds team on the call today, that Ellis had confirmed earlier this morning with Brian Turbot that all systems are go with regard to the warrant for this week. So,
And it's been identified as a wire.
and it has been identified as a wire, like 6
Great.
ways to Sunday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Cassidy?
Through you, Mr. Chair, is Ann still on the phone?
She's connected, but I don't see her face. But there she is.
And is there something that the DOE or I thought I remember you saying something about Thursday. What's happening? Is there a plan or is it a drive-by or what?
If I may, Mr. Chair. This is the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection that's coming for a site visit. They are one of the funders of the solar pergola system that's on the site. And so first they're going to be going to the water treatment facility in Surfside. And then they're coming to this facility there, 31 Fairgrounds, for a photo. 12:15 to 12:45 is when they asked to have access. They wanted to see the interior of one of the units, and I was actually going to connect directly with Billy to coordinate this. They're sending out something to the press, but it's, you know, it didn't sound like they wanted it to be like a big, huge thing. They have 9 on their team with their commissioner, and then just gonna take a photo there.
That sounds pretty big.
Ann and Billy, can I have you guys take the scheduling to offline
Yes.
and then let us know? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Are there any additional, let's see, I'm in other business, any additional other business? Seeing none, I'll close other business and open board comments. Any board comments? Seeing none, close board comments. Item 11 is executive session. I'll be looking for a motion to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property where an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of a public body. And not to return to the open, to adjourn and not to return to the open meeting. Thank you, Vicky.
so moved.
Moved by Meg and a second from
Second.
Tom, vote by roll call. Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Meg Bowers,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. Thank you.
I don't know if I have the link. If we could do a quick resend, Ellis, please. Thank you.